Hello there, and welcome to my episode 2 of Deep Dive Analysis and Review of Episode 2, Blue-Eyed Samurai. Links to my overall review and my analysis for Episode 1 can be found in the description. Thanks go out to Mark Spader for the top quality information and all the moral support I get from my internet friends. Links to their channels are in the description, so if you fancy some quality content, go check them out. Right, this isn't the Oscars, so let's get on with it. And as always, there's major spoilers from this point onwards. Episode 2 is called An Unexpected Element.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Cheap, I know, but if I don't get at least one Monty Python clip in somewhere, I'm definitely doing something wrong. We continue in the narrative style of setup and payoff. And this episode doesn't have to do as much heavy lifting with our central characters becoming firmly established. The interplay of tension and additional character development throughout the entire episode really works. And the excellent fight scene brings it all together at the end. I would say it ends on a cliffhanger, but our Blue-Eyed Samurai has already dismembered her way down the cliff at this point. We're starting off with a quick rundown of the plot and narrative arc of An Unexpected Element. There will be links to each of the sections in the description, so feel free to bounce around. We're doing plot, character, themes, action, setup versus payoff, responding to criticism of the show, and last but not least, a ranking for the episode and a ranking within the context of the series. So what happens in episode 2? Well, we open on a soba noodle shop floor where Ringo's deadbeat dad is still trying to clean up the blood. When the Four Fangs arrive, after some murder-death-kill of other customers, they question Ringo's dad. Meanwhile, Ringo is following the samurai and repeatedly tries to convince her to let him tag along. She refuses, but he keeps insisting that he can be useful. She tells him to leave or she'll kill him.
If I see you again, I will kill you and never think of you again.
Yeah, Mitsu, we're not really buying that line. At the next travel security gate, in a nice callback to last episode, Mizu nearly gets stopped when it turns out that she can't bribe her way through. Ringo comes to her rescue as he has a travel pass for 2 people. After they are through, Ringo makes his case again to be an apprentice, and this time she allows it. Back in Kyoto, Akemi counsels Taigen, who is nursing his pride and a bold spot after his battle with Mizu, and they get it on. When she says the fight was a dishonourable attack and not a proper duel, Taigen decides to go after Mizu and challenge him properly. Ringo and our Blue-Eyed Samurai are on their way to find a boat to get to the island where Heiji Shindo is, but there is a festival called the Hadaka Matsuri, sorry if I murdered that, is actually going on and she'll have to wait for the next day to sail. As Ringo keeps managing to sneak up on Mitsu, she purchases a bell and ties it round his foot. Poor Ringo.
Your foot. You are never to take that off. The day you take that off, you are discharged from your duties. Do you understand?
Meanwhile, Taigen follows their trail with the Four Fangs and not that far behind. There's more murder-death-kill from them as they slaughter everyone at the travel security gate. Heiji Shindo is on the island waiting for a signal from the Four Fangs, which means they've killed the samurai. He talks with a Northern Irishman with red hair, and their conversation reveals that the white man isn't allowed to leave the island except during 1 month in the spring, when he is allowed to go and see the shogun. Back at the town, whilst waiting, our Blue-Eyed Samurai goes off to train and bathe in the sea. Here we start some flashback sequences, which shows a man approaching the sword father. He says he's a bookbinder, but wants a sword to avenge his father's death at the hands of a drunk Ronin. The sword father does agree to make a sword for him. When Mizu tries practicing swordplay with this customer, he beats her quite badly and makes fun of her for being a soft half-breed.
Your foot announces your thoughts.
What an absolute pig. I've got a shovel for you, mate. She helps Master Eiji make the sword, but it ends up breaking off at one point. The customer grows angry at the sword and he's about to hit Mitsu, but the sword father stops him. Go, Master Eiji! From the feel of his hand, Master Eiji realises that he is not a bookbinder but an assassin. The man simply boasts about his many kills, calling himself blood-soaked Chiaki. He takes the sword and goes on his own way. In the present, Taigen watches Mitsu practicing in the woods and then gets frustrated when he can't do what she can. Taigen, mate, your pride. It's coming before a fall. Akemi is called to see her father, who presents her to a couple of men representing the shogun's younger son, who is looking for a new bride. She will need to blacken her teeth, as he likes it that way. She tries to implore her father to change his mind, but he won't. They will have to leave for the wedding in 5 days. So Akemi decides to run away and pretends to be silk shopping when Seki catches her and is having none of it and goes with her. Ringo is enjoying the town's festivities when he learns of a ritual where a priestess throws a magical stick into the sea. Yes, this does sound crazy, and yes, this is a real thing. And the person who catches it gains magical powers. He then tries the town's best noodle shop and the owner offers him a job. As the drum starts beating to signal the start of the ritual, the 4 fangs catch up to Mitsu. In the town, everybody gets naked and jumps in the water. The mercenaries corner Mitsu at the edge of a cliff. She takes a step back and leaps off. One by one, Mizu cuts down the fangs despite the sheerness of the mountainside. The third one has a fall all the way down to the shore. The final member of the fangs is revealed as blood-soaked Chiaki. They fight and Mitsu gets injured when she's distracted by Taigen, idiot, hiding in the rocks. Just as Chiaki is about to strike her down from behind, she throws her sword, which goes straight through him. The priestess then throws the stick into the water and Ringo catches the stick in his mouth. But all is not over for Mitsu as Taigen comes out of the shadows, insistent on getting his honor back. Can you not see, Taigen, the state of her? They move towards each other, but Mitsu collapses. Taigen stands with the sword raised over her. In exploring the character arcs, I'm going to start with our 3 villains. We have an unnamed Northern Irish man, who is Abijah Fowler, Heiji Shindo, and blood-soaked Chiaki. Now, the visual framing to the scene gives so much context for our 2 villains, with Heiji looking out the window, waiting for the signal fire to show that Mitsu is dead, all while Abijah carries on painting behind him. It is clear that the relationship is tense between them, and Heiji is a little snivelly and grovelly, whilst Abijah just continues to work. When the painting is finished, Heiji compliments Fowler that he's mastered the brush, and this speech gives us some insight into his intelligence, competence, and frustration.
Art I mastered to while away the hours. I hate that I have time for painting. If I have time to paint, something is wrong.
After the painting is destroyed, Heiji's flippant comment that he'd have liked it in his room is made even more disturbing as we get a nice top-down shot, and you realise that the painting is, in fact, a life study complete with entrails. This establishes both characters as absolutely au fait with death and gore, and it's perfectly normal in their world for someone to have their guts splayed everywhere. Blood-soaked Chiaki does not so much have an arc, but the manipulation and lying of being a bookbinder to receive one of Master Eiji's swords shows how calculated and again how intelligent he is. His treatment of Mizu in the sparring matches frames his brutality, and he is correct, if awful, when he realises that a broken blade will only serve to make him more famous and therefore raise his price. His name is important to him or he wouldn't add the blood-soaked, and he seems proud that no one will ever know Mitsu's with his quip on the side of the cliff. Whilst he's only in this episode, it's clever characterisation of a mercenary assassin, and he feels 3-dimensional rather than just evil laugh, bad man. Although his laugh is really awful. So with the villains out of the way, it's time to move on to our blue-eyed protagonist. We open with Mitsu trying everything to get rid of our starry-eyed Ringo, who just wants to be her apprentice. Her stoicism and repeated brush-offs being largely ignored. After he is useful by getting her through the travel security gate, she tells him that she will have her revenge and noodles is not war. She only relents when Ringo says that his whole life has been a battle.
My whole life has been a battle.
And of course, our protagonist can empathise with that, as so is hers. Once they reach the town, she urges Ringo to stay and make a life there, showing that she does understand how dark, bloody and lonely her path to revenge is, but feels there is no other choice. Once at the camp, she begins training again, slicing through trees, but is unable to slice through the thickest of them. Mitsu has to continuously centre herself and refocus, or she starts to mentally wobble and her fighting suffers. Has the taking on of an apprentice pushed her off her path slightly? After she's recentered herself, we see who the battle is really against, the war between her European heritage and her Japanese. As she murders a blonde, blue-eyed copy, she then recommits to her quest by touching the tattoo. I think it's interesting that this happens again in the final battle with Chiaki when she is distracted by Taigen, and even here her internalised hatred is made worse when Chiaki, on point of death, thinks he's too good to die by her impure hand. Half dead and going on willpower alone, she still gets ready to square off against Taigen. Best line?
The drums. Maybe I'll just go look at the fun.
Seeing some welcome development in episode 2, even though he's at first easily manipulated by Akemi with flattery in the she actually spurs him into taking action to regain his honour. We see that this honour is a central tenet to Taigen's personality, along with pride, as he tries to copy the training that Mizu does and is unable, getting incredibly frustrated. You can see the conflict on his face as Mizu collapses at the end. If he strikes her down, he can take her corpse back and regain his honour, his social climbing marriage and his standing within the dojo. But you know he's not going to strike, but you still wonder what will happen. This is a big thing. He's the son of a poor fisherman and Mizu has effectively taken all that he has accomplished, in his head anyway, away from him. No real best line from Taigen in this episode, but some welcome screen time. Akemi, showing her manipulative side by flattering Taigen to the extent that they end up having a because she wants him to fall in line and shave his head. We see a slightly darker side to her personality. She's not thinking of Taigen, she's only thinking about herself. We are also let into exactly what Akemi is facing in this one with the black teeth marriage proposal for the Shogun's second son. It's a situation she can't manipulate her way out of, but she shows both her tenacity and stubbornness alongside her naivety by running away to find Taigen.
Miho no Seki. He must have left a trail.
But what if he kills you this time?
Seki. We clearly see what an excellent father figure he is, both in ensuring Akemi doesn't throw a tantrum during the marriage presentation, but also in knowing her naivety and then going with her. He's really growing on me as this one. Sword father. It is Master Eiji who steals the show in this episode, with epic smithing life advice to Mizu. It's also him that first speaks her name on camera, so to speak. We learn more about the process and how Sword Father sees the process of smithing a blade as a very, very spiritual thing. We're also given a clue that Sword Father may know that Mizu is a girl when he notices her discomfort after she first binds her chest. When presenting the broken blade to Chiaki, he states the name of the episode.
7. Forgive my failure. An unexpected element entered the blade.
And this was the one line that I really thought was awesome. Last but not least is Ringo, my third favourite character. Ringo goes on a little journey this week and you can't help but feel slightly bad for him when he discovers that his noodles, the thing he thought he was best at in the world, are not the greatest. It's also heart-wrenching when you hear that the reason he is stealthy is because his father used to beat him. His hard and brutal life hasn't hardened him. He remains optimistic, curious and open, the light to Mizu's dark, and you can see part of his relentless optimism almost starting to rub off. His fondest wish at the ceremony is to be great at something, and he manages to catch the magic sticks in the water with his mouth. I really like the way, whilst Mizu was facing peril and danger and in battle, they had the same thing happening for Ringo. And for Ringo at least similarly high stakes. He is given a chance to build a life in the town, learning from the best noodle maker, and has been told by Mizu at every turn that the path she's on is bloody, but you just know his loyalty and heart will not let him quit Mizu's side.
In the noodle shop, I learned to be quiet, like a ninja.
I do not want you anywhere near me. Stay away.
Let's talk themes, and yes, we are back to water again. The unique episode title card bears a breaking wave symbol. As a callback perhaps from episode 1, water and names are interwoven into the major thematic context throughout an unexpected element.
Everywhere I look, it's water, water, water!
Starting with names, we have our samurai's name first spoken aloud by Swordfather.
Your fire is in this edge, Mizu.
Which then links into the symbol on the title card, as Mizu means water, but more specifically, cold water. Mizu centres herself by bathing. In the flashbacks, after she first binds her chest and is in great discomfort, she goes under the waves in the cold water and we get this kind of fetal image. The broken blade itself is put in the water before it breaks. Akemi submerges herself in a bath when it becomes clear that there is no way of talking herself out of the marriage to the second son. Ringo is reborn after catching the sticks in the cold water. There's talk about rebirth throughout the episode. Even one of the town dwellers tells Ringo to come and be reborn. Mizu, when recentering herself for training to cut down the thick tree, again submerges herself and recenters herself. It is either raining, stormy, or there are waves through most of the key story beats. Then there's the waves on all of the blades that Mizu crafts, right the way back to the surf on the kitchen blade she uses to cut off Hachi's fingers, and of course the waves on the edge of the legendary blue sword. It's even a small wave that rouses Mizu on the beach before the final showdown with Chiaki, and that whole end duel is beautifully visually framed in the crashing surf. Water is often seen as purification, and a lovely little detail from when Chiaki lies dying is his scabbard, Have a look at the symbol that's on it. I'm excited for the murder, death, kill section, or should that be the murder, death, lose limbs first section? I'm not sure. On our journey through an unexpected element, they cleverly ratchet up the tension leading to the final climatic cliff edge duel by ensuring we know, whilst Mizu doesn't, think Hitchcock, where our team of assassins, the Four Fangs, are, by interspersing the story with what I like to call the chase scenes. The Four Fangs seem even more deadly by their murder, death, kill in the Soba Noodle Hut and then the brutal slaughter of men, women and children at the travel security gate. We know Taigen is pissed, and at this point in the story we still see him as a bully who wanted Mizu to off herself and nearly killed her with a rock. Even more impressive is that it gives us a little bit of character development as well, with Taigen practicing the same moves but fighting against an Onryo in the flashback, whereas Mizu is fighting against herself, when they're not showing you the glorious black and white mental warriors. In fact, when first confronted, you're not quite sure whether it's Taigen or the Fangs. After being outfought on the cliff edge, our canny protagonist needs to level the battlefield to have any chance of survival, and she does this by, well, unlevelling it and jumping down onto the ledges below. She holds her own until injured by Chiaki throwing machetes at her. What a knut. And this is where she does the handstand move. And I now may have this as a wallpaper on my desktop, just saying. This is excellently set up from the training earlier with exactly the same move, used to slice the tree in two, used to slice a fang in two. It's at this point that she falls somewhat ungraciously to the bottom of the cliff, and we then get the beautifully framed clash against the surf. Yes, it's another wallpaper. A really lovely detail is that she's fighting against her own sword with Master Eiji and her maker's mark clearly visible in several shots. Way to go, stunt team and artists, this was chef's kiss. And out of all the action, and it gets so much more intense, one of the standout fights in the entire show.
That was awesome.
Blue Eye Samurai has been out since November 2023, and alongside watching the show 9 times in totality as I work my way through these deep dive reviews.
Obsessed? Who's obsessed?
I've also been observing other reviews and reactions. And whilst there have been some great takes, I have been spectacularly impressed with the level of idiocy on display in some of the comments sections.
Wow, are you stupid?
So much so that at times I've wondered, are we watching the same thing?
Maybe I'll just go look at the fun.
So this is all about addressing some of the points made, especially as it relates to the episode we're in. And I'm only doing 2 in this deep dive or we'll be here all day. So first up, let's address the elephant or the lack of a willy in the room and Mizu presenting as male. This point is particularly prevalent in this episode as Mizu binds her chest. And I just want to state some of the hot takes about something called femme adjacent are just... What?
Seriously? Are you serious?
So I thought I'd let the creators state flat out in an interview they did with Nerds of Colour, Somebody Passed Me a Bucket, the epitome of a mind virus woke channel, about why Mizu is traversing the world as a bloke.
But a woman dressed as a warrior, dressed up as a man because of the privilege that the men get. What inspirations did you take for this story?
You know, actually, we've said this before, but I don't know if you're familiar with Yentl, and that's starring Barbra Streisand, and she dresses as a man because she wants to study the Torah. She wants to eschew the woman's life at the time, and it's the same with Mizu. She has the goal. She has this objective to be the greatest swordsman, and that's what she has to do. She has to, she can't go on a revenge quest if she's a woman. So this is, she has to do everything's in service of her objective, and which is to get revenge.
I hope this puts that bloody stupid bit to rest. And as for the idiot interviewer talking about privilege, I don't think the men in Edo, Japan had it particularly easy either. It was brutal. You can almost see the creator's eyes tighten. If you want to play Bad Take Bingo, however, that interview is a classic. I'll link in the comment section. Privilege, colonisation and representation? Ding, ding, ding! They are all in there. I thought Michael and Amber did a great job of completely turning her narrative on its head while still actually being polite.
Listen very, very carefully.
Listen to me close, because I'm only going to say this once.
Mizu is a heterosexual woman on a revenge quest. She could not openly carry a sword in Edo, Japan, travel, or do the things that she 100% needs to be able to do to achieve her goal, killing the last 3 white men on her list. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a member of the alphabet crew. I really don't give an absolute toss. But she's not. She's heterosexual. The only reason she's dressed up as a man is because she couldn't do it any other way. So I'm hoping I'm finally going to put this to rest. But there's some more kind of signs that she is a heterosexual woman in upcoming episodes. So we might return to this point. There seems to be this really weird skill issue thing that comes up that she hasn't trained enough to be the badass that she is with a katana. Well, let me introduce you to episode 2, where even when travelling from place to place, and even though in current timeline she's already killed one of the white men, she is still training every chance she gets. Then you'll get, but she only practiced the movements and hit trees. That wouldn't be enough to tell you how to fight. So let me introduce you to episode 2 again, where she spars with Chiaki. Is it unreasonable to assume that she wouldn't have sparred with other great samurai that passed through Master Ages, as well as learning all the secret techniques? Then there's the fact that we have absolutely no idea what other training she has done in between being an adolescent and a 20-something-year-old. You are repeatedly shown in this episode her dedication to training and her singularity in becoming the greatest swordsman ever.
How shall I say this?
Are you fucking stupid?
I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that Mitsu may have gone to train with some secret master in martial arts and sword fighting at some point either. She's that focused. She's done that to achieve her revenge because she loathes herself so much that snuffing out the person who has caused the pain of her existence is her only priority. I'll keep coming back to this point as there are loads more examples of ongoing training. And so ends my TED Talk. We're in the final ranking section and it's the same as episode 1, a solid 9. Some of the character development is brilliant, as in the prior section I think it really fleshes out exactly why she's so skilled, and the final battle is kick-ass. We also get great character development for our blue-eyed protagonist, along with funny lines from Ringo. Then, whilst we know she's not going to die, would be an awfully short series, she's in peril and danger at the end with a very angry Taigen. Some of the visuals and styling from the black, white and red mental warriors, Mitsu's glasses are still orange in these scenes by the way, just a nice little detail, to the beautiful landscape shots to the battle scenes. Every frame appalls in the last half of this episode. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for joining me in my new favourite obsession. Please like and subscribe if you like this content, and feel free to leave a comment if you don't. That's all from this videographer, and I'll see you in the next one.